It's been a week that tested whether the fragile truce between Washington and Tehran could survive at all. The trouble started on Thursday, June 25th, when a suspected Iranian drone struck a merchant vessel off the coast of Oman. 2 days later, on Saturday, June 27th, that pattern repeated, this time with a direct hit on the Singapore-flagged container ship, Ever Lovely, sailing through the Strait of Hormuz. It was the first attack on a commercial vessel since the ceasefire agreement between the US and Iran had been signed just 10 days earlier. President Trump called it, in blunt terms, a foolish violation of the deal. Washington's response came fast. At the president's direction, the US military launched strikes against Iranian targets near the strait, hitting what US Central Command described as surveillance infrastructure, communication systems, air defense sites, drone storage facilities, and mine layer capabilities. It was framed not as a new war, but as retaliation for what officials called continued Iranian aggression against commercial shipping. Iran didn't wait long to answer. In the early hours of Sunday, June 28th, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps announced it had struck US military positions in 2 neighboring countries, Kuwait and Bahrain, in direct response to the American strikes. US officials confirmed there were no American casualties and no significant damage. A separate wave of Iranian drones was also detected heading toward US facilities, but according to officials, none of them reached their targets. By Saturday night, Central Command said it had hit 10 separate Iranian military targets in a single operation, the most significant single exchange since the ceasefire framework was signed. NPR described it as the most serious escalation since that memorandum of understanding was reached earlier in June, an agreement that had given both countries 60 days to work out their remaining disputes. Despite the exchange of strikes, both sides pulled back from the edge. On June 28th, the US and Iran agreed to halt the tit-for-tat attacks, but the underlying tension didn't disappear. On July 2nd, Iran announced that international nuclear inspectors from the IAEA would be barred, under any circumstances, from entering 3 of its key nuclear sites, Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan, citing new parliamentary legislation and a decision from its Supreme National Security Council following damage from earlier US bombing. On the same day, Iran issued a warning to oil tankers in the Strait of Hormuz: stick to designated shipping routes, or face what officials called a forceful response. Back in Washington, the strikes reignited a political fight that had been simmering for weeks. Congress had already passed a war powers resolution, directing the president to pull US forces out of hostilities with Iran, a non-binding measure, but a historic one, since no war powers resolution had ever previously passed both chambers of Congress. 4 Republican senators broke with their party to support it. When the new round of strikes hit just days later, Representative Ro Khanna accused the administration of a blatant violation of that resolution and threatened legal action. Constitutional experts, for their part, were split on whether courts would even intervene, with some suggesting Congress's real leverage lies not in lawsuits, but in cutting off funding for the operation. And then there's the economic story running underneath all of it. The Strait of Hormuz carries roughly 1/5 of the world's oil supply. When the ceasefire was first signed on June 17th, tanker traffic through the strait picked back up, with both countries agreeing it would reopen without tolls or fees. But the renewed strikes brought that recovery to a halt. The International Maritime Organization temporarily paused its vessel evacuation operations, and some tankers began rerouting along the Omani coastline to avoid the strait altogether. Even with oil prices holding below pre-war levels for now, analysts caution that a full return to normal, repaired infrastructure, restored shipping confidence could take months, and prices may not fully recover this year. Meanwhile, a parallel front has stayed active just to the west. In southern Lebanon, fighting between Israel and Hezbollah has continued despite a string of ceasefire agreements. 4 separate deals in June alone, none of which fully held. Just a day after Israel signed a new US-backed agreement to withdraw troops from parts of southern Lebanon, Israeli forces struck the town of Nabatieh al-Fawqa, and an Israeli soldier was killed in a gunfight with a Hezbollah militant near Deir Sirion. So where does that leave things heading into the weekend? A ceasefire that's technically intact, but that's already been tested twice in 1 week. A Congress that says the president needs its permission to keep fighting, and a White House that shows no sign of asking for it. And a strait that carries a fifth of the world's oil, now sitting at the center of a standoff that could reshape energy markets for the rest of the year, regardless of whether the shooting stops.